Welcome to the History Law channel. You join us here again today outside St Pancras Hospital, and we're going to be talking about another person associated with the building. Last time we were here we were talking about Henry Croft, who was the first Pearly King of London, but today we're talking about a very different character who probably helped shorten the war by a considerable amount. That man was Glyndwr Michael. Who was he? Well, he was actually the man who never was. So let's have a look at his story. By early 1943, the Allied forces were on top in North Africa and were looking for ways to advance into southern Europe. The most likely route was always going to be through Sicily, but the Allies needed the Axis powers to think differently. Enter Lieutenant Commander Ewan Montagu, a naval reservist who was seconded to the military intelligence, and he had to come up with a plan to make the enemy believe the invasion would be elsewhere. He was assisted by Lieutenant Charles Cholmondeley, and they devised a plan called Operation Mincemeat, a plan to try and make it look like Greece was the intended invasion site. The plan was simple in principle, but elaborate in execution. A body would be washed ashore in Huelva, southern Spain, where known German spy sympathisers were situated. The body would be an officer carrying secret and sensitive documents, hinting very heavily that Greece would be the intended target. They approached the eminent pathologist Sir Bernard Spilsbury to determine what type of body they would need to simulate drowning, and that would force Spanish pathologists to the post-mortem. Fluid on the lung would be the key factor. On the 28th of January 1943, a call from Bentley Purchase, a coroner and forensic pathologist at St Pancras Hospital, told Montagu of such a body. The body that Purchase had was Glyndwr Michael. He was a 34-year-old and was a homeless man living rough in the King's Cross area of London. He'd been taken to St Pancras Hospital a few days before, suffering from phosphate poisoning. It appears he'd ingested rat poison. Whether deliberately or just by eating a crust of bread with rat poison on it, we'll never know. He was originally from Aberbargoed in Monmouthshire, and his father, Thomas, a coal miner, had committed suicide when the boy was just 15. His mother died when he was 31, and now depressed and homeless, he left for London around 1940. The approval of the plan was received, and Montagu and Cholmondeley set to work creating a new identity for Glyndwr Michael. They came up with Acting Major William Martin of the Royal Marines. This was because there was already a number of Major Martins in the Marines, and also as a Marine, any reporting of the body would be channelled through the naval intelligence. They would fill his pockets with litter, as they called it. What was litter? Well, it was personal effects. So they put there a letter from his bank manager complaining of a £79 overdraft. There was used theatre stub tickets. There was a letter and a photograph of his girlfriend. There was also matches, cigarettes. There was a few coins, some banknotes and that sort of thing. All litter that you would associate in an officer's pocket. The photograph of his girlfriend was actually Jean Leslie, who was an MI5 clerk. And they also put in a receipt for an engagement ring for £53, 10 shillings and sixpence. So you see, Acting Major William Martin had a lot to live for. He was also given an attaché case secured to his belt containing secret letters from Sir Archibald Nye, Vice Chief of Imperial Staff, to General Sir Harold Alexander, commander of the 18th Army Group in Algiers. There are also letters introducing Martin as a new aide for Vice Admiral Lord Mountbatten, and a few clumsy joke references to sardines and Sardinia. Major Martin was being assigned to Mountbatten staff as an expert in amphibious landings. In the early hours of the 17th of April 1943, the corpse of Michael was dressed as Martin, although there was one last-minute hitch. The feet had frozen. An electric fire was located and the feet defrosted enough to put the boots on properly. The body was placed in a canister, which was filled with 21 pounds of dry ice and sealed up. When the ice sublimated, it filled the canister with carbon dioxide, drove out any oxygen, thus preserving the body without refrigeration. The canister was placed into a van of an MI5 driver, St John Jock Horsfall, who had been a racing champion before the war. Cholmondeley and Montagu travelled in the back of the van, which drove through the night to Greenock in West Scotland, where the canister was taken on board the submarine HMS Seraph. Seraph's commander, Lieutenant Bill Jewell, and crew had previous special operations experience. Jewell told his men the canister contained a top-secret meteorological device to be deployed near Spain. On April the 19th, Seraph set sail and arrived just off the coast of Huelva on the 29th of April, having been bombarded twice en route. After spending the day reconnoitring the coastline, at 4:15 a.m. on the 30th of April, Seraph surfaced. Joule had the canister brought up on deck and sent all the crew below except the officers. They opened the container and lowered the body into the water. Joule read Psalm 39 and ordered the engines full astern. The wash and the screws pushed the corpse towards the shore. The body of Major Martin was found around 9:30 a.m. on the 30th of April 1943 by a local fisherman. It was taken to Huelva by Spanish soldiers, where it's handed over to a naval judge. Vice-Consul Hazeldine was officially informed by the Spaniards, and he reported back to the Admiralty that the body and briefcase had been found. A series of pre-scripted diplomatic cables were sent between Hazeldine and his superiors, which continued for several days. The British knew these were being intercepted, and although they were encrypted, the Germans had broken the code. The messages played out the story that it was imperative that Hazeldine retrieve the briefcase because it was important. At midday on the 1st of May, an autopsy was undertaken on Michael's body. They signed the death certificate for Major William Martin for asphyxiation through immersion in the sea. The body was released by the Spanish, and as Major Martin was buried in the San Marco section of the Nuestra Señora Cemetery in Huelva with a full military honours on May the 2nd. The briefcase was retained by the Spanish Navy and was eventually sent to Madrid, despite protestations from the German agents in Huelva who wanted the case given to them. Well, the case was returned in May 1943 to London. Had Operation Mincemeat worked? Was it a success? Well, the answer was yes, it was. How did they know? Well, the answer is very simple. Montague had placed a single eyelash in the seal of each letter in the briefcase. When the case was returned, the eyelash had gone. Further forensic tests showed the letters had been stretched and held taut and then soaked again in salt water prior to being sealed, minus the telltale eyelash. Final proof the Germans had been passed the information from the letters came on the 14th of May when a German communication was decrypted by Bletchley Park. A message was sent by Brigadier Leslie Hollis, the Secretary of the Chiefs of Staff of Committee, to Churchill, then in the United States. It read, "Mincemeat swallowed, rod, line and sinker by the right people, and for the best information, they look like acting on it." Montague continued the deception to reinforce the existence of Major Martin and included his details in the published list of British casualties which appeared in the Times on 4th of June. By coincidence, it also published that day with the names of two other officers who had died when their plane was lost at sea, and opposite the casualty listings was a report that the film star Leslie Howard had been shot down by the Luftwaffe and died in the Bay of Biscay. Both stories gave credence to the Major Martin story. The German High Command set about moving vast amounts of troops and hardware away from Sicily to bolster defence in Sardinia and the Balkans. The formidable 1st Panzer Division were moved from southern France. 2 Panzer Divisions were moved from Eastern Front. About 10,000 troops were now stationed in Sardinia, and 7 divisions were transferred to Greece. They also moved a large number of torpedo boats from Sicily to Greece. On the 9th of July 1943, Operation Husky was launched by the Allies and the invasion of Sicily began. The fight, led by Generals Patton and Bradley for the United States and General Montgomery for the British, lasted until the 25th of July, certainly quicker than the original plan. Was this thanks to Major Martin? That's something we may never know. In 1944, Lieutenant Commander Ewan Montague was awarded an OBE, and in 1948, Lieutenant Jumley received an MBE. Montague also went on to write his account of the story, concealing the true identity of Glyndor Michael as Major Martin. A film loosely based on Montague's book was made in 1956, The Man Who Never Was. In 1996, Glyndor Michael was finally identified as the man who was Acting Major William Martin. His gravestone now reads something extra. His grave in Huelva actually reads, William Martin, born 29th of March 1907, died 24th of April 1943, beloved son of John Glyndor Martin and the late Antonia Martin of Cardiff, Wales. Dulce et decorum est pro Patricia Mori RIP. But it also adds, Glyndor Michael served as Major William Martin RM. And a plaque was added to the war memorial in Aberbargoed in Monmouthshire in Wales. And it called him the man who never was. Thank you very much for watching today. If you do like these videos, then please do subscribe. And if you want to know when videos are uploaded, there is a notification bell just down below. If you want to see what we do outside of these videos, then please go to historylord.co.uk, see about one of my walking tours of London, or in the description below, there's all about Last Line Films, which is James's YouTube channel and his podcast as well. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you very soon. Even the traffic's getting noisy now. Take care.